In fact, one of the things that actually brings about insomnia is, in fact, the inability to unwind, or in yogic language, unwind. And so, in order to finish my little riff on this, very brief Eastern sleep hygiene practices. One is, what a surprise, do some meditation, do some unwinding before you go to sleep. Because in the inner yogic traditions, and Tibetan yoga, my principal tradition, Tibetan Tantric Buddhism, they work a great deal with inner yogas. Just like there are outer body yogas that work with the outer body, there's a vast array of inner subtle body yogas that work with the subtle body. And the reason I mention this is that dream yoga and sleep yoga are subtle body yogas. And so as we go to sleep every night, in fact, one of the things that actually brings about insomnia is, in fact, the inability to unwind, or in yogic language, unwind. The winds, the chi, the prana, the lung, just gets too elevated. There's too much wind stuck in the head center. And so when we fall asleep, whether we know it or not, according to inner yogic traditions, we literally unwind, unwind. And so 2 ways to work with this. One is just good old over-the-counter mindfulness meditation before you go to sleep. I do this religiously. This is part of my sleep hygiene practice. At least 15 minutes, usually more like half an hour or 45 minutes, every night before I go to sleep. I do standard mindfulness meditation, and then a few of the other little practices I'll show you if you are in fact interested in exploring these nocturnal practices. The other thing you can do, and this also really helps with insomnia, by the way, as an inner yogic trick, is a form of pranayama, or it's called in the Tibetan tradition, expelling the stale air, stale winds. And this could not be simpler. You take your hands, you put them in this posture, thumb at the base of the ring finger, close your hands over your thumb. That is a subtle, nuanced inner yogic potential to close the particular meridians or channels that are associated with discursiveness. You take 3 very slow, deep in-breaths, very slow, deep, and then final forceful exhalation, out-breath. And basically with a sense that not only are you expelling all the stale wind through your lungs, but there's a sense that you're expelling all the stale prana, the lung, the chi, from all the channel systems in your body. And I toss this out just for people who have resonance with these sorts of things, yoga practitioners and the like. You're probably already doing something like this. But you do it 3 times, visualizing, if you're interested in augmenting it, visualizing all the energetics associated with aggression being expelled. 3 more times, dispelling all the energetics and the winds associated with grasping. And then 3 more times expelling the winds associated with indifference or ignorance. And again, I simply recommend, if you suffer from insomnia, either sleep onset insomnia, having trouble going to sleep, or maintenance insomnia. You wake up in the middle of the night, you can't go back to sleep. Try this thing. Just see how it works to decelerate, to unwind the mind. It's very interesting in tantric languaging, thought is literally referred to as movement of mind. And that movement is in fact driven by these winds. But the idea is to honor and respect the way you sleep and dream. It's incredibly interesting to me, prior to the dark ages, literally in this case, the historical dark ages. Prior to that time, the archetype I use is the healing temples of Asclepius. This is the Greek god, the physician of healing. In a very interesting way, when people wanted to receive a dream from the divine physician, they would enter these healing temples in Greece. They would go through a host of ritual purification practices, meditation, cleansing, as a way to create an environment, a milieu, an atmosphere that was conducive for receiving dreams from Asclepius. And then they would either interpret it directly because it would be so clear, or temple interpreters would help people understand what the dream was bringing about. And if you like, we can talk about this sort of thing, dream incubation, ways to work with the mind as a way to cultivate guidance, insight, overtly through dream incubation, which goes back thousands of years in multiple traditions. But what really interestingly happened with the advent of the Dark Ages, and some not so gracious church fathers started to demonize the dream. And we're essentially evicted, my languaging, we're eventually thrown out of the temple of sleep. And so I'm drafting a particular book, the third in my trilogy now, called The Lost Temple of Sleep, Integral Dream Yoga and the Path of Awakening, which is a way that we can each individually in our own way do our own temple reconstruction project every night when we go to sleep. And these sleep hygiene projects are part of that, to create an atmosphere of respect, honor, and even sanctity for the mind that is cultivated and eventually even released in the nocturnal arena, as a way, in fact, to engage in these types of meditations. So I'll be saying a little bit more about that later, but the idea is the more you respect your sleep, the more you respect your dreams, the more you honor your dream state. You know, we have such a dismissive relationship to the dream state, right? We say, oh, that's just a dream. I mean, that's a pejorative comment. And so it's unfortunately indicative of the way we in the West tend to dismiss these states of consciousness that fundamentally ego cannot fully experience. This has to do with a type of hubris, a type of wake centricity that ego, this particular level of development, has towards states of consciousness it can't fully experience, like sleep and dream. And so I'll talk in a minute about dream yoga, which is maintaining complete lucidity in the dream state. Sleep yoga, as unbelievable as it may appear, I'll mention more about this in a bit, maintaining complete lucidity in the deep dreamless state. Well, one of the biggest reasons that we in the West don't have access to these refined states of consciousness, which, by the way, in Eastern philosophical traditions, these are causative states of awareness, consciousness. This is where reality actually arises from in Eastern philosophical traditions. So in a very real way, the West has it completely backwards. This kind of wake centricity, that the only way we can explore mind, meditate, the only way we can know reality is through the waking state. Who says? Aristotle, the Greeks. And so Eastern philosophy, Eastern spiritual traditions draw on all three states, waking, dreaming, and deep dreamless sleep, to understand the nature of mind and reality.